Or this app almost makes it seem like they can wait as long as they want because it doesn't really abort. Okay, I can do my King's Indian shenanigans that I always try to do. If I just play solid and patiently, I'd be fine. They're trying to do the King's Indian of their own as white. Odd. Bro thinks he's me. I couldn't ask for anything safer to play against, though. That's perfect. Right, that's like my dream come true. So now I can't complain about the opening. I just have to actually concentrate in a long form sense, and I have to definitely trade stuff off in a way that that last game was just completely stupid. Okay, so we have... Where would I want my pawns to really go here is the question, and the answer is... I'm not sure which bishop is going to be... So we'd want the pawns on the dark square on the queen side, based on my pink flamingo idea. So what you have is... I don't really want to move the pawn here, or I could move it up twice. Let's do this as a safe move to do. And the reason why is because if I bring out the knight, they could just harass it, right, with the pawn, so I don't want that to happen. This allows the bishop to move, and so the bishop can kind of pin the knight to the queen if he decides to go that route of moving that particular pawn. If not, I can double push this pawn. They can take, I can take, which I don't even really want to do that either. So I don't want to trade necessarily the light square bishop for the knight, but I could create the scenario, right, where they have no choice. The preference is always to trade the knight for the knight, or the knight for the bishop, rather, would be the best. Trading a bishop for a knight is always a trade down, or so it feels, because I always talk trash about knights, and they suck so much, and you definitely don't need two of them. Yeah, we get the luxury of doing like in real life emotes. We can do thumbs up, thumbs down. I could do something more profane too. It's all kind of just because I don't use a webcam very often, only for gimmick stuff like this. Either, you know, I was doing this, I was doing the Rubik's Cube that you could probably see in the background there. I was doing like the Kindle Scribe, all these kind of things that I use only once in a while. But okay, so we could try to take the knight. But if I didn't take the knight, what would be the answer? Like, I gotta trade a knight, but they're not letting me do anything with it. If I move the pawn on the b file, then they'll be attacking immediately into there. But if I move the pawn, or if I move the knight, then they'll just attack it with the pawn potentially. Oh, but they can't. But then they could do some sort of cheeky unleash. Like the other knight has its back, so I guess if he pushes, I can just take it, and then he could unleash with the knight and then be threatening. But you move the queen to here, so they're not playing like super sharp because they're making a lot of repetitive moves that don't really matter too much, that you don't really need to worry about. So the point is that I'm going to make a risky move now and possibly get myself in trouble because there's no reason to be doing this. See, the longer I wait before I trade is a direct correlation to my potential defeat, because you end up stalling for too long. Like now I can move the pawn finally, but then the knight is still pinned into the other thing. And I guess I was wrong about that too. The fact that, oh, he couldn't push the pawn. He could have totally pushed the pawn because he had the queen cover, which he now just gave up. Like, I'm not paying attention at all. Like, if this is my last game, then, you know, I almost deserve it because this is just ridiculous. I'm not going to say that playing on this distracts me, but I'm just not playing well in general. Even before I started using this, I was on a bad streak. I was on one of my best streaks ever, getting to like 17 plus in rapid, and then I just have played like garbage since. So move the queen there, and again, you got to be aware of the pawn push, but at least now. So the worst case, I would have just had to move the knight back, but I mean, all these kind of wasteful moves are not appreciated. I'd move the pawn, then I'd move the. I could almost move the rook first. I could move the rook to the b file first, just to remove any concern with that. So much you have to do to acquiesce to the stupid knight that just gets in the way of everything all the time. Alright, we can't get too tilted by that last game. This is okay. Everything's fine in this position, so I could move the rook. I could move the... It's not like the bishop needs to be there anyway, so... Okay, you'll go here. You'll attack probably that knight. Either way, they're adequately covered, so... That's fine. So all I want to do is I want to go ahead and... do this, just solve the problem of whatever pin that could cause later, even though there was no real need to do it there because I don't know, I'm just paranoid on account of the knight, so it's okay. Because he's got two things in the way now that could pose too much of a problem for him. So if he pushes the pawn, I could just take, I could take with the pawn, he takes with the pawn, I move the knight back, it's okay, like... It's awkward, and again, so much of it is on account of acquiescing to the knight. See, like, the upside of the knight is okay, but the downside is so extreme, especially in the early game, that that's what makes it such a bad piece. Like, it's way too much of a victim. It's way too much of a easily threatened kind of piece. It can't fight back. It's just kind of very limiting, right? It's getting in your way so much. And what they did there was that... I don't know why they moved the queen there, to be honest with you. You move the pawn here. Okay. Move the pawn there, and then we raise the thing here so I can try to develop the bishop would be the only logical play. Maker, I guess I could double push a pawn here to the... No, I can't do it. Okay, so we'll bring the bishop there, and again, the end result of all this work for the bishop is, oh, we're just gonna trade it for the bishop, or maybe even the knight, which, yeah, I denied that trade for the knight, and look at how much trouble, how many more moves I have to go through now. That seems like a terrible move. I almost can't believe it. So now you have the ability to... What could that possibly even do for you? What is that? So they could harass the knight a little bit with the pawns, as they could do at any point in the whole game, because that's just how the knights are. Either of these two pawns can go. And so I just have to make a suboptimal knight move, but that's basically just like saying I have to make a knight move, period, because they're all suboptimal all the time. So we could raise the other pawn to a5. That would be a goal of mine. And I would also desire to... There's nothing more that I want than trading off a knight right now. If I could do it in any way, just one of them even would be adequate. I don't know why it's so difficult, but you go ahead, you do this, which is not a pin or anything like that. So I'm not really too worried about it. I need to... I kind of don't like this, but let's try to force his hand. And the reason why is because now he's either going to trade... Oh, that's the biggest favor you could have ever done me in my whole life. Right, like whatever happens this game, this guy just did me a great service, because I'm dying to trade the knight. I'm dying to trade it, and he goes out of his way to trade a bishop down for me. Right, now everything's fine, so I have a bishop pair, but they're not on the same side or working very effectively. But at least I have the ability to kind of settle things down a bit, and then I'm able to... He's still going to harass the other knight, though, even after all that. So he could raise the pawn to d5 and then block off my light square diagonal for all intents and purposes. And so I'm okay with that, but so now I can't do that double pawn push, or I still could. But what I want to do is I almost have to move the bishop back. I gotta watch that h6 pawn. Like, look how my knight has no good square to go to. Nothing. It'll block my own pieces on the back rank. It'll just ruin everything. So I guess I could do this. Okay, I'll do it. And then what that does is if they take, I take with the knight. It's not going to be under threat. The knight's not really doing anything. So you go to outpost, so he's for the knight. And either way, I have my V-shaped structure intact, right, with the pawns, the nice little pink flamingo thing that we see. That is my own patented technique. Now maybe the knight got somewhere to go to, even though it's not very good, but it could allow you to not block my own rook, so I guess it's okay. They have the light square bishop and two knights. I have obviously the bishop pair, presumably. Okay, they're making some kind of weird pawn structure as well. Now they're letting me take a free pawn if I'm not mistaken. And I'll double check and I'll triple check because, okay, it's not a free pawn. Never mind. I'm having some visual issue maybe. My mic sort of blocks the board a little bit, but I hardly think that's a suitable excuse. It's happened with the queen, though, a couple times for some reason. I keep missing what the queen is doing. So I could try to double attack that. Then if they raise it, I could easily take. If they raise the other one, I could also not take. I could raise the pawn here. So if I double raise it on the C file, they would take, I would take, and everything would be fine. But that's my anchor pawn, so why would I do that? Oh, I don't know. Right, they're playing with their pawns pretty well, pretty aggressively at least. I got to move that bishop back at some point because that pawn on h6 is not going to be covered and I'm going to forget about it. I'll always like point out what the issue's going to be, but then I'll forget about it later, right? Like I'm aware of that, but then, oh no, he's going to move the queen to a dark square and then now I'm going to miss it. So I don't know what's going on with these pawns. I don't know why this is so difficult. This guy's the one guy who's actually using his time pretty disciplined in terms of like he's down to 24, I'm down to 23, like we're both similar. Whereas all these other people will play like super fast. They're at 28 minutes, I'm at like 15, like they just go nuts with how fast they want to play. So I'm trying to think what the purpose of this position is, and I cannot figure it out because there's nothing going on. There's no, if I double push the E pawn, he's just going to raise the other pawn. Like, I'm so baffled. There's nothing I can really do. If I raise the C pawn, again, that's my anchor pawn, so I don't want to give that up anyway. My knight could kind of do a little bit of work here. I don't know. Again, I could just move the bishop back and just be comfortable with that, settle with it. I'm okay with the trading situation. I just need some sort of idea of what to do for for all these pawns. Like he's staying very indignant about it. Like what can I do to force him to move a pawn? And the answer is there's nothing I can do. I'd have to give up. I guess I could push this one. But then it wouldn't work. I could push the D pawn to D5, right? But then he could just raise that too, and then there's nothing I can do. Okay, my possible moves are move the bishop back. You should make it like a multiple choice, right? Have it in your head already. I could go bishop to G7. I could go pawn to e5 or pawn to d5, but not, I don't like any of those really. And so it's a very stale, stagnant kind of position. We're single attacking that, and the queen is there. So is there something I can do to draw the queen out? Or is there a way I can double attack that piece, but then if I do, they'll push it. But if they do push it, it's okay. And the reason why it's okay is because what they'll do is they'll move the pawn, though. Which is actually still fine. So yeah, I'll move the queen to e5, e6, double attacking that pawn. Then if they raise it, I can take adequately. And then if they don't do it, that doesn't seem really relevant. I don't see the immediate impact of a move like that. And so what I'm going to do, I'll go here. And what that does is, okay, I'm attacking the rook and I'm double attacking the pawn. And that rook is covered by the queen as well. So what I could almost do is I could bait it out in a way like, even if they do double cover it, right? I would take, like, okay, they move the knight, let's say, and now they're covering with that. So I would take, they would, no, but I still can't do it. Like, I could almost sack a piece and then win the rook, but I can't because the queen would still need to be covering it. So they would take, I would take with the bishop, they would take with the bishop, I would take with the queen, they would take with the queen. They're covering with this, which means I can't take. Now, if I take, they take, I take, they still take, okay? So if they took with, like, the queen first, I guess I could do it. Or again, if I had any other means of threatening this, which I don't. Right, that rook that I'm attacking is in a very weak, soft spot. And I could make potentially, like, oh, a brilliant move here, because look at what we're doing. If they take with the pawn, then I take the rook for... No, never mind. I was going to say, if I put the bishop, like, here, then if they take, then I take, but it doesn't work because they have the knight. And it wouldn't be a back rank or anything like that either. So the problem that I have with this position is the rook is not on an open file, and I can't get it into one, so... If they push the pawn, I could take, they could take, I could take, they could still take. Okay, this is too much. I could move the queen back. I could push. I want to do something with the pawns, but I'm not seeing a single good pawn move to make. I don't see anything. If I raise the D pawn, they could just raise again, and then I can't do anything. And I'm blocking my own diagonal. So what would a good player do in a situation like this? And the answer is, I have no idea, so I'll just go back. If I could answer that, then I'd be a good player myself. So, I mean, at least I'm trying this game a little bit, but there's just nothing happening. If they move their queen, I could take the rook. That knight is also uncovered, so that side of the board is a little weak for them, the A file. But I can't target it, so... Gotta be reactive, I guess. We have like a little piece of hair here. I don't know how well you can see all of this stuff, but... Yeah, you can see all the lights there when it's moving. So, I mean, the whole goal of it would be like to look at it like I can play a whole online game without ever having to look at the screen like a computer or even having a computer. And I have my computer on, but just to stream from, I don't even have it with the site on. So I have it on my phone, and that's unfortunate too that you even need that. But just by purely looking at the board, you get everything out of it aside from the clock. He's actually lower than me on time too. So did that make a mistake for him? And the answer is it does, sort of, because now I would take, they would take. No, it doesn't. Sometimes you have like this wishful thinking stuff where you're trying to If I want to double push the F pawn now, which probably is a terrible idea. But the reason why is because if they raise, I take. Or if they take, I take. I really don't see the value of it though. This is a very disciplined kind of pawn game on both of our parts, and I don't understand. I need like a third attacker there, and there's just nothing. I might have to incorporate the knight. Like, I just don't get what to do with this position at all. They can raise the pawn however they want now, and I can't do anything about it, so... You know you're desperate when you're starting to rely on the knight. The goal here is to... Just, I should probably move the queen back, but they could raise any pawn that they want to right in the middle here. And any of those scenarios is fine for them. See, like, I moved that knight even without a sense of purpose. Like, I don't even know what I'm trying to do with it. But I'll figure something out. It's really this E pawn, I guess, that I should go for because I can't figure it out otherwise. But then again, they'll push it and block off my light square diagonal. This is a really, really kind of tedious game, but this is what classical is about, I guess, or just chess in general is about. I was only planning to play one game too, but that one was so unsatisfying. So let's lose 2 in a row and actually fuck my whole account up. But it's possible, but this is looking okay. It's not looking good really, but it's hard to measure how good or not good this guy is. He made a couple stupid moves, like the rook move there doesn't seem to be right. The A2, I don't know what the point of it was. It doesn't seem as bad now, but it was a lot worse when he did it. Like, you know, blocked in by his own pawns even. Like, there wasn't anything that it did. So, like, if I had another attacker on this pawn, it would be very good. And the reason why it'd be good is because... there could be, like, a multi-move sequence that you make. Like, for example, okay, I'm going to push the pawn on... No, it doesn't work, though. See, all this, like, wishful thinking trash. This is why you can't do this. I know people would oversimplify, but like, okay, so I'll go to d5 with the pawn. Then if he raises it, what do I do, right? There's nothing I can do. I would take the other pawn on the other side, then he would take back. There's just nothing happening with this position at all. At least I found the one player in the world who's slower than me, because this is very anomalous that he has 17 minutes, I have 19. That never happens, right? Whether I win or lose, I'm always down on time. I'm always taking longer. Whether they're lower rated, higher rated, doesn't matter. Everybody just plays like a speed demon, even in classical. That's how chess streamers have ruined the game, because they make it seem like, you know, like the Michael Jordan quote, maybe I made it look easy, where, you know, you see these people who have studied the game their whole life and now they want to show off in bullet and act like, oh, that's what the game is really about. And it's not. Now that is music to my ears, because if I can get this to move, this one pawn to move, even if through a sack, I don't know. But it wouldn't work because they'll be taking right into me, and then if I like raise the e pawn, they would take, I would take, they would take, but it's in the wrong direction. It's not like you're opening it. You'd have to take like into here or something. I don't know what actually the purpose of his moves are, to be honest with you, but I moved that knight for a reason, and now I can't figure out what that reason is. I like the diagonal for my queen, but now it just no longer has any impact, and so I can't figure it out. Why is this so hard? Let me just move the queen back, I guess, and then I'll try to let the rook lead a little bit. I don't know what he's doing exactly, but all right. So his knight and his rook are not in the greatest spots. They're both uncovered, or I mean, the rook is always uncovered right there. That I was trying to take advantage of that diagonal, but I had no idea how to do it. So we got to move one of these pawns here, and that pawn is probably going to be the um that pawn is probably going to be the E pawn now, so they'll raise it. They'll raise the D pawn, and then I won't be able to use my diagonal, so I don't get why I would even do that. I love this implication of stuff like this, that, oh yeah, you should just understand this. This is just intuition. Like, dude, after hundreds of years of study, right, these people study these things and then act like, oh, it's so obvious, duh. That's why Paul Morphy didn't do it. That's why Bobby Fischer didn't do it. Exactly the way that we take for granted at 1500 rating today that, oh, this is the opening line and blah, blah, blah. Like, just because something is known to be the case now, it's like with any field of study, like, oh, science. Of course, people in the past were stupid. How could they not know this? But you know, oh, like it'd be easy to make a Model T Ford now because you have the specs and the blueprint for it. How come people were so impressed by it then? Why was it so hard? Right? Because it's a lot harder to do something for the first time than it to come up with it than it is to just recreate it and replicate it once you have the info. That's kind of a gaming philosophy that I have, like playing a game blind versus trying to, oh, it's easy. How could this guy be such a noob? But it's only easy because you've done it for hundreds of hours, or you're familiar, or you've used like external borrowed knowledge database, stuff like that. Like, and I'm not even shaming that. I'm just saying there's a bit of a difference between that and, you know, obviously trying to figure it out for yourself. Knowing is half the battle, and people take that for granted that you use external resources, which in a way validates how complicated games have become, that people feel the need to do that and take it for granted. But, you know, imagine actually playing a game blind in the modern era where it's an open world game that you can play for 1,000 hours plus, even while looking stuff up, or like an MMO, or you'll never be able to keep up. But I still enjoy it on the baseline level of that, like where, okay, so this guy's slow, so maybe I can take advantage of that. But otherwise, I don't think I'd have a chance to beat him either, because everybody is just like, I mean, it's just nothing's happening. Like I get so tilted by that, but then I guess chess and classical is just the wrong thing for me because nothing happens. Like there's no, and now I'm gonna force something to happen, and then it's gonna ruin it. I should be a little more willing to calculate, but I just get lazy. So they bring it double stack here. Even they don't really seem to know what they're doing exactly, because if I double push this pawn, this is what I'm thinking. Double push the E pawn, then if I do that, then they could just move the pawn. That's the problem. They could just move this pawn to block my light square diagonal. And I'm so fixated on that that I don't know what to do about it otherwise. So maybe I'll do it like this. I'll raise that, then raise that. So go to E6, then go to D5, and then they take, I take, they take, I still take. Let's do it like that, I guess. Okay, so now the key lesson to be learned is the fact that what could get me in trouble is the fact that it's possible maybe I could have sacked my dark square bishop for that, and then no, but my queen wouldn't have been attacking. If my queen was still attacking the rook, then I could have sacked that. Then if they take back, then I could take the rook, but it wasn't the exactly right position for it. See, I'm always aware of the threats, but I'm not aware of like how to actually capitalize on them, and then maybe I get too discouraged. Like you're expecting it to be too simple or too easy. So now, whichever way they go, I should be threatening into something from which I can unleash. Like, I raise the pawn, then even if they move, then I can still take and clear that out. But I can still clear out the light square diagonal that I want so badly. But then again, it could leave my queen potentially exposed. So, like, I raise it. No, but my queen's still there. So he's down to 13 minutes. I'm down to 17. My level of play is very, very bad. So this might be Or it has been, so this might be deceptive. I don't know how good this guy is or isn't, but play the position, not the player, even though I don't even know his rating because I can't see it, which sometimes that might help me, actually, instead of getting psyched out or something, like, you know. But it doesn't matter who's playing, even though it kind of does, but it says he made the move, but I don't see what it was. I think he went here. That time it didn't light up, so it actually kind of bugged out. So is it going to be... Okay, I still don't see a big threat with that. So if I raise this, they raise and then I can't take. But I'm less concerned with the taking than I am with, okay, I'd be able to take and then make something finally happen. So I'll do it because I'm getting restless about the position, if nothing else. And I might have messed up because now they'll take... Okay, I think I just threw the game, actually, but... So if they take, I take back, then they can double take because they have the they have the back rank covered. So it's okay. I mean, it's not a big deal. I tried to make something happen, so that's the lesson in chess. Just don't try to do anything ever because you can't do it. Like, it's the most non-aggressive, anemic kind of game you've ever seen. So they could easily do it. It's obvious. Even a moron like me can see it. You can see how it was so tunnel vision on doing that, though. Like, I want something to happen with the pawns, and it's just not happening. So are they going to be clever enough to see it? Because if they... It's not really much to see, but they would take, I would take, they would take... Alright, dude. It's only one pawn. It's not the end of the world. All I would need to do, for example, is to move like the knight. And if I move the knight, then that's adequately covered. So then I could take. So that really is as simple as that. So I'm not even worried about it. If they take now with the pawn, I can take back. They could take, I could take. It's okay. I mean, it's not a big deal, you know. It might come down to time in a classical game, which I actually might have lost like that myself in one of them. So the lesson here is that the knight probably is going to get in the way, but it's okay. They could even harass it around all the more. They could raise the pawn, then I would take, then they would take. Then I'd have to move it somewhere else, and it would have to be somewhere that doesn't block it, so it would have to be like on f5. Then, okay, they're not doing it though. So I mean, that could just be an easy justification for a trade. Even if it undoubles their pawns, I'm fine with it. So they could take with the pawn, and then I could easily take with my pawn and do that in such a way that even though it makes this pawn vulnerable now on h6, I don't know exactly what to do about that. So they're at 11 minutes, I'm at 15. I shouldn't even worry about that, but just for what it's worth, it's okay. So this pawn take should be doable now because you get to... I would take... Of course it's not because of the knight. How incredible. We're sort of back to square one, but he did block his own double stack because look at the knight, man. Look at the knight. What a piece, man. What a piece. Nothing I can do. I mean, I shouldn't have even tried to incorporate the knight at all. I just give up. So the point is that I could still take that pawn on d5. And the reason why I can still take it is because the double stack is no longer a threat. So even though I messed up earlier, it should be okay now. I got to watch out for the h6 pawn. Like, it's all pretty clear to me. everything is clear, as Kramnik would say, but not in that way. Like just, or he sometimes says it the opposite way. That's pretty funny too. Everything was clear to you, of course. Everything was clear, like it was so obvious to you to do all. And I kind of sympathize with him because you never know, right, whether somebody's actually doing that or not. So there's two separate arguments. Like maybe he's doing it because he's salty, but maybe he's also doing it because he's, you're playing online, and that's just the nature of playing online sometimes. I have to move it, and the reason why I have to move it so I could take with the queen, I guess. And if I do that, they can't threaten in a meaningful way. And the reason why is because everything should be fine. The question is, do I like raise that pawn again, like the it to h5, or do I just try to bring the king up to cover? So we're double attacking. I have no means of actually doing that, but it's a case where I would take, they would take, I would take, they would still take. We could trade off the bishop, so we're getting into good endgame territory where we're just happy to trade. But if you look at the knight's presence in this game, and I know people would say, oh, you just don't know how to use the knight, but I don't know how to use everything, evidently, but somehow it doesn't cause me the same problem that this does. Like, it's just a clown show. Almost as big of a clown show as my actual setup if you look at this, but hey, the level of play can still speak for itself. You can do this, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I can just trade it. Not that I even really have to or need to, but, and maybe I don't even want the pawn there, to be honest with you, but it's a case where by doing that, it allows you to let me think. It might make these pawns a little strong for him, but I'll still do it without thought because I'm a clown. And then from there, I will, okay, you go here. Right, these center pawns are very good now, and I'm just kind of dealing with it, so... Am I actually going to get trapped in here or something? I really can't because they're... I have too much still on that, but... I'm trying to think like what my pathing should be if I go to like a dark square here. So these pawns are very strong, and I willingly gave them up to him because, again, if a low-ish rated game like this comes down to pawns like this, then fine, so be it, but it really shouldn't, and just whatever happens, happens, and it's a case where if he moves the other rook, then I could at least bait him. Like, if he takes, then I could double take in a way that would be worth, like, sacking the knight, but it's sacking the knight in a way that's not really... Oh, I guess it could be good if I... Like, he raises, I take, he takes... Well, that wouldn't even happen, but he raises... Which one wouldn't he be able to take with? Like, if he takes with this... Like, he raises, I take, he takes, I take, he takes, then I still take. But why would he even do that? It's 8 minutes to 13 minutes. Again, I'm kind of, for once, I'm actually up. Normally, I don't even have to say who is who. 8 minutes to 13, but who has 8? It's all, you would assume it's me because I'm always so slow, but in this case, it's not an issue, so you got to remember the h6 pawn. You got to remember the knight is a liability, as if we ever forgot. You got to remember that... You got to remember that you could create a pin here. If I backstep away the queen, I would be able to do it in such a way that now that pawn could be a risk if he has to take with the pawn on the e-file. If you take, then I take the queen with the rook. And the way that you do that is by simply moving my queen out of the way. And also that opens up room for the knight to move. And the reason why it opens up room for the knight to move is because... Okay, he's moving his knight. So he's going to create some threat here, I know, with the pawns. And the problem is I can't move my knight at all, ever. And so that it does become an issue. When you just simply are not able to move a piece ever in the game, that does become annoying. So what you can do now is you can I'll go here. This actually addresses the cover issue of the other thing too. The reason why is because, again, the h6 pawn is covered now by the queen. Otherwise, the king could scooch in there. So I'm playing very defensively now, almost obstinate to try to flag him. And again, in a classical game, not that I'm really trying to flag him, but like, you go ahead and try to figure this position out. Like, I know you're literally probably a GM smurf and you can do it, even though you're way too slow for that. But like, try to figure it out, dude. Because I'm just sitting here like, this is what chess is about. Like, nothing happens. You waste your time. Like, I don't get it. I don't get what it is that people find some crazy brilliant sack. Like, I don't see anything. It's just maybe I play positions that deliberately allow for that more, like where I do sort of turn it into that because I like to play safer and not really try to do attacks, but it's sort of self-fulfilling too. The reason why I like to play like that is because when you try to play otherwise, you get screwed over too. He's really struggling on time. So whatever he can do with these pawns here is going to be a big question. Right, something as simple as just pushing into the I don't know, I can't explain it. I'd like to move the knight, but the reason why I can't move the knight is very simple, and the answer is there's just nowhere good for it to actually go. That doesn't turn it into a liability itself. It's quite astonishing, actually. And again, it's just expressly in the way the whole time. It's actually unbelievable. So I want to move it, but it could be the last move that I ever make, and I'm not too happy about it. Like, all I would want it to do is just not get in the way. Like, just don't get in my way of the back rank rooks connecting or anything, but it's just too much to ask. Like, you just can't. If he raises the other pawn, he's attacking the knight, so then I'm sort of obligated to take. And the reason why is because the knight is under threat. But then if I don't take, he takes for free. So then that allows his knight to get a really good outpost square, and it allows him to do whatever he wants. Okay, he goes there, which is interesting. So if I let him take it, could be trouble. If I take it, could be trouble. Once again, the knight coming into full fruition here with respect to just what if I moved like the king here? If I move the king, he takes, I take. That could be actually worth it. Everything else is too far away to have an impact, so you might be actually better served doing that. So what that does now is, okay, you take, I take back, it's no threat, it's no big deal. And I'm not happy about it, but it's the best I can do for now. Once again, the knight just may as well not even be in the game. Like, you would probably do better just being -3 and not having the knight than having to work around its deficiencies and just inability to do anything good ever. Like, so many times. I mean, I'm not even trying to pick on it. I'm just looking like, my goal with the knight isn't like, let me try to find a good move or a great move. My goal is like, let me try to get it out of the way and not let it sabotage what I'm trying to do. So his pawns are pretty strong. I can't argue with that. If he takes, I take back. If not, I guess I'll take. And our rooks are pretty well presented now. I think my knight, again, is the weak link. Everything else. So if I could trade off the knights, I'd be in good shape. His knight could be very good as well for him. It depends what exactly he does with it. Goes here. So here's where some sort of sack play or something comes in. He's got a fork. He's sitting on a fork. And so the reasoning is that I'd have to move over the other rook. Even if I do that, it's problematic too. And the reason why it's problematic is because I almost want to push this thing and do a cheeky threat on the queen, but that could be a bad idea too. Go to like h5. So how do I solve the fork? And the answer is, I guess you would just move the other rook and you move it to the... Move it to here, I don't know. Now, see, the thing is, I can't really take, though, even if you were to do that. And now, what it lets you also do is it lets you take this for free to the extent that this pawn... Okay, dude. I think I'm done, though. Even if he doesn't win, I think I'm done playing. I can't. I don't know what it is. I have no desire to actually take games seriously. So you can take with that, and then you're attacking the rook, and you're going to take the rook for free. Right? And you're going to do that because that's just how I was afraid of the fork. I mean, it's great. Like, I don't know what... Yeah, this is a fitting end to my account. I think I'll stop playing chess. It's just not a real thing. I can't do it. I mean, I don't know what it is. I cannot focus for one game. He's even down on time, so I should have tried to use mine, but even the board doesn't want me to play anymore. Like, what is it? What did I do wrong? The fuck? So you can just take a free rook. You got 4 minutes left to finish me off. I give up. I mean, that's it. Lichess is done. Chess.com's already gone. I just can't do it. I won't have much of a use for this fucking board. That means. So you're double attacking it still. It doesn't really change anything. So... Wow. Wow. That's too bad. It's really too bad, huh? Or I even just gave it up that way too because okay. Okay, so take back here, go to pin it, but this should basically be mate. Where does he go with the knight to make it mate? Or at least I'd have to sack my queen. I mean, this guy should feel proud of himself. It should be a good moment for him. I can't. So you bring in the knight, and it's not mate, but it's gonna be basically mate because you get sack the queen. So my last game, assuming I don't lose a ton, because you have also it might not take that much away, which would be kind of ridiculous. I can take this, but it's a little bit too late. He's still pretty low on time, so maybe I can come up with something, but I doubt it. Just the effort. Like, I don't care. Like, I just play just for the sake of it. I've even said it's a filler category. Like, it's just no effort. Like, I'm just doing it for show. Like, I'm not really interested at all. It's just trash. This check is kind of important to stop. Raise this, I could just take back. He's gonna bring in the rook. Now, is there a way I can stall for time a little bit? And the answer is, I guess for a second I could. Because if you go there, I could take with the knight, so he's gonna now pin the knight. and then he'll be able to go there, but then I can do something else. At least have to take the knight there. There's no stalemate possibility. And technically it's covered enough because you would have to take that first, then I could take this. I'm at least dragging it out so he could choke on time, but if I really wanted to do that. Oh, whoops. Okay. Three minutes left. So let's see how much we lose. And like I said, I'm honorable when it comes to that, but I think we're done. I don't even want to do it. Like, I want that to put an end to it. He's 1626. That certainly should have cost me more. I'll do a session where I just delete my account there properly. I could blame the gimmick apparatus because clearly, like, but I was playing at a low level anyway before using it, so I wouldn't even bother with that. But 1685, so that's it. Okay, see you later.